Hey, so it's like 4 a.m. right now, and I've just seen the fucking Kryptek ship. At least one thing in every single one of these paragraphs is wrong. I'm just gonna quickly talk about this because this is probably the silliest thing I've seen her write, and boy howdy, I've seen sometimes I lie and we didn't consider other playstyles, so I've seen some things. Firstly, let's talk about this first part. She starts good. The first 2 sentences are fine, but then Agony Stun was done because Seris was one of, if not the only support without CC. That's just not true. Like, at all. Her ultimate is literally just CC. So, that's just not true. And then we get to the next one. Old Mortal Reach was done because we base kitted talents for the sake of quality of life. Once again, that's fine, whatever. I want a bit of extra heal range, that checks out. What you'll notice about all of these instances is while they are buffs, none of them were intended to significantly improve Seris. What the fuck does that mean? You've just explained to me how 3 of her talents were put into her base kit. 3 entire talents were put into base kit, and you're telling me they weren't intended to significantly improve Seris? Like, what? That's just... okay, that's so stupid. Okay, with the base kitting of Soul Collector, we'd be doing the 4th over 5 years. That's quite a lot, and we are aware it feels intense, which brings us to point 2. Do they have an actual plan with what they do with her? We do have a clear intent and vision for her identity. This is also not true, because at the bottom of the thread, spoilers alert, they say that they don't know what they want to do, so that Seris could either be nerfed or kept the same. They could bring her back to just be a casual champion and not a ranked one, or so they clearly don't have a plan for her fucking future. Like, this is just a flat out lie. Seris' identity has 2 pillars: channeled healing and controlling enemy space through projectiles and CC. Firstly, that's 3 things. These 2 things are what make her feel unique, yet both have issues in modern Paladins. There used to only be 2 pillars, being channeled healing and controlling enemy space through projectiles, which by the way is just a fancy word of spamming down the choke point. Dredge does that, Betty does that, Seris does that. And yes, Seris was the only character to have channeled healing. That was her identity, spammy projectiles and channeled healing. Her identity was never CC. You forced that identity upon her by putting Agony into base kit. Okay? Don't try and tell me what Seris' identity is when you've physically forced it to change. Channeled healing, simply put, doesn't perform at high level due to anti-healing. So anti-healing is doing its job then. That's what you've just said. Healing doesn't perform well because of anti-healing. Yeah, that's its fucking job. It's far too passive and doesn't actually sustain past the 8-minute mark in a siege game. Nothing should sustain past the 8-minute mark in a siege game. I don't get why that's so difficult for the devs to understand. 90% anti-healing. Nothing should be able to sustain past the 8-minute mark. That is anti-healing's job. If you have made something that can sustain past the 8-minute mark, you have failed as a game developer. Forsake is our way to allow shifting her towards burst healing and has been moderately successful. However, base kitting that is not an option because it takes away that identity pillar. This makes no sense. So you can decide to take away an identity pillar, which by the way, can we not start using that as a phrase like we've started to do with Sandbox? Can we not use identity pillar? You don't... Look, Forsake is fine. It's dog shit, but whatever, it's fine. Her pure identity as Seris. If you pick Seris, you are picking her for the channeled healing. You never used to pick her for the burst healing. You've just put that on her now, because you've put another talent into base kit. A channeled healing was her entire thing. So the other half of her identity is her projectiles and CC. You can't group those together, by the way. Those are 2 very separate things, but whatever. Ever since base gets done, a huge part of Seris' game plan is punishing positioning and setting up her team. One of those is right, being setting up her team. Seris doesn't punish positioning, that's not her job. She spams down a choke. Like, that's it. You can't punish positioning with her left click because it's too fucking slow. You can't punish positioning with that. We could buff this aspect, however, we run into the issue of any buffs to that are buffs to Soul Collector. Nerf or rework Soul Collector, don't put it into base kit. Why do you keep putting talents into base kit if they're too good? That doesn't make any sense. If a talent is too good, where it's the overarching choice for that character, nerf or rework that talent, don't put it into base kit. That just makes the issue worse. Which takes us to the final point I want to touch on. Why have you guys been constantly adjusting Seris? As Seris, it's in a very unique place in the sandbox. Once again, let's stop using that word. It's not a word for this game. She's the most played character in the game, yet one of the worst supports statistically, and without Soul Collector, she is the worst. First of all, that's how statistics worked. That's how statistics works. If she is the most played, she's going to have the lowest win rate, because a bunch of new fucking players are playing her and losing. That's how statistics work. You can't look at statistics for a character like Seris. You can't, because she's so widely played across everywhere. You just can't solely look at statistics. Supports have been a wild ride the past few years because you keep touching them. Keywords, Feeble Fables, I can't even speak, and Rebalancing Rejuvenate. Which, by the way, Rebalancing Rejuvenate is a massive nerf to supports, and not for the reason you think it is. That sounds like a shitty YouTube title. Seris, however, has stayed nearly static throughout all of these because all of her strength is wrapped up in Soul Collector no matter what we do. That's not true. In fact, Seris used to be picked for her ultimate. Back when the item store was only one item in each slot, Seris used to be picked for her ultimate. Because not everybody on the enemy team would pick Resilience. Haven was way more valuable. So Seris was actually really popular because of her ultimate. Nobody bought Resilience to counter it. Seris' strength was never completely wrapped up in Soul Collector. It's just, Seris is low-key a slept-on, complicated champion, but people keep just thinking that she's nothing but a right-click bot. So she never gets what she needs, and the devs don't know what to do with her because we're not helping them understand what Seris is. Base getting Soul Collector allows us to try and bring her up without Soul Collector becoming even more centralizing. That makes no fucking sense because you've just made Soul Collector the center of the character. You've just made Soul Collector another, as you like to put it, identity pillar. Now Seris' identity pillar is she gets more health and damage the more she hits her souls. So now she's just, you've strengthened everything about her by putting Soul Collector base kit. The reason why Soul Collector was picked and was solely left as a talent is because you weren't able to pick the other two. That's how talents work. All three of them can be strong, okay? The fucking trade-off to picking Soul Collector is that you didn't have Agony, but then you put Agony into base kit. So now you can pick Soul Collector. Do you see the issue here? The trade-off of picking Soul Collector was that you didn't have Agony. That was the trade-off. The trade-off for picking Agony is that you didn't have Soul Collector. Talents didn't have built-in fucking trade-offs. I don't understand how this is so difficult to understand. This is longer than I anticipated, but I wanted to make clear that the team isn't simply throwing things at the wall. You fucking are. Look at the Octavia changes last patch. Look at the fact you made Makoa grow when he ults. Look at Zin's new talent. You clearly are just throwing things at the fucking wall. Don't try and say you're not. I'm sorry, but you're not. Okay? None of these changes I feel like have had any thought at all past it would be cool and thematic. I feel like that's all the fucking thought process behind these changes have been. Similar to how Eevee and Vatu are always in the bottom 10 game-wide, but in ranked can shine, Seris may always be a champion that her identity leads to casual comfort but no amount of ranked viability. So you understand this concept about Eevee and Vatu, but you can't seem to understand it for Seris. Like, what? And it's not like you're making Eevee and Vatu ridiculously easy. You're not making all the top or all the underutilized champs ridiculously easy. Oh no, wait, you fucking did with Maldamba. So choose. Are you making the game ridiculously easy, or are you making it difficult? You keep going back on things you're saying, and you keep going back on everything. You say you understand that Eevee and Vatu are difficult to play, but in ranked can shine. However, you seem to don't understand that for characters like Maldamba, because you make Maldamba ridiculously easy. We'll be reading all the feedback to inform our next steps. I hope you've listened to this feedback, because it's probably the best and in-depth you're going to get without other fucking troglodytes sat there going, "This is a fucking bad change, revert it." I'm giving you constructive criticism on why all of this is bad. And if you want me to explain it in even more detail, by all means ask, because I would love to talk to you about Seris, and this is me being genuine. I don't know if you're ever going to have Paladins partner more people coming in, but if you are, then by the love of God, I would love to discuss this type of stuff with you, because there's just a lot here that I feel like either I'm misunderstanding something or you are, and I want to be able to be clear with these things, because a lot of this doesn't make sense. A lot of it just doesn't, with a lot of things. You can't explain to me that putting Soul Collector base kit makes it easier to balance. It doesn't. You either nerf Soul Collector or you revert it, or you buff the other two talents to be at its level. That's what Agony used to be. That was why Agony was a talent. Because you chose between Soul Collector or Agony. The trade-off of picking one is you don't get the other. That was the trade-off, but you've removed this trade-off so hard that she just has both in her base kit. If you need me to explain anything more, then please let me know, okay? Because I would love to talk about Seris to you, because apparently this is an actual discussion that needs to be had. So let me know.